Good evening, and welcome to Creative Broadcasting, the station of unlimited possibilities, presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about myself: corporate professional by day, entrepreneur by night, two-time best-selling author, owner and creator of Creative Broadcasting, and co-founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP. Tonight, I have an amazing special VIP guest by the name of Brian Oles. A little bit about him. Brian Oles wasn't born with a natural enthusiasm for public speaking. A burgeoning change agent in the industry, the Baltimore native inadvertently entered into the world of speaking when he delivered his first speech to the Morgan State University Toastmasters Club in 2006. Recalling this as one of his most defining life moments, Brian instantly connected to his passion when he found himself in front of a standing ovation at the conclusion of that speech. Identified as a creator of collaboration, Brian specializes in empowering rising professional speakers to create clarity, streamline systems, and cultivate the relationships needed to reach the unique audience they are called to serve. His passion for speaking, diversity, and building relationships led him to create Black Speakers Network, a membership-based professional speaker development and empowerment association. With thousands of members around the world, Black Speakers Network holds the distinction of being the most accessible and fastest-growing development organization dedicated to serving underrepresented speakers at all levels in their career. Recognized as one of the brightest talents with a unique mix of corporate, academic, and leadership, Oles' influence and prowess has warranted favorable opportunities to showcase his talent and spread awareness beyond BSN. In 2015, he competed in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest, a competition with over 30,000 participants who compete for a chance to take part in the World Championship of Public Speaking. Brian proudly advanced to the semifinals, competing against the top 100 speakers around the world. With a deep appreciation for artistry of speaking at the helm of his career, Brian Oles is defining success on his own terms. His impact is illustrated perfectly in industry-made Zig Ziglar's quote, "It's not where you start, it's where you finish that counts." Welcome to the table, the amazing Brian Oles.
Hey, good evening, Ashley. Thank you so much. I always forget that we use the long-form bio because I'm sitting there like, wow, all that stuff actually happened. But I am extremely excited to be on the Creating Your Seat at the Table TV show and live radio show. I am so excited. Thank you so much for the opportunity and looking forward to a great conversation. But how are you today?
I am doing awesome, and I just want to say I'm honored and humbled to be able to interview you today, and you have such an amazing bio. So would you please tell our listeners a little bit more about your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those of you that haven't met me yet, I'm sure we have some Black Speakers Network members listening, but if you're not familiar, I think, Ashley, you did a great job of kind of giving us an overview. But, for those of you that aren't familiar, Black Speakers Network, really, rarely is it that we start companies and they end up the way we exactly envision. And so, and for me, it's certainly been a journey. You mentioned Morgan State University there, and, I tell everybody my story. If you had been sitting in a small classroom next to me in 2006, you would have watched as I stood up, walked to the front of the room, and prepared to give my very first speech in Toastmasters. And Ashley, I'm not sure, are you familiar with Toastmasters, or have you run across the organization before?
Yes, Toastmasters, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so Toastmasters, for those of you that aren't familiar, Toastmasters is a public speaking organization. They literally have been around since 1924 with chapters all around the world, and the objective of the club is to get people comfortable and competent in speaking. And so I was at my very first Toastmasters meeting delivering my very first speech. And if you had been sitting in that room, it had been different from the day, Ashley, because you would have seen sweaty palms. You would have heard my shaking voice. I'm pretty sure I almost walked out of the room at some point. And so that was kind of my entry point into the speaking world. And after that speech, I immediately noticed three things. I did a quick self-check, realized I was still alive, and that was great. I thought I was going to literally die on the spot. Yeah. The second thing I realized is that everyone in the room was clapping, and that made me feel good at the time. Later on, I realized that Toastmasters is a little bit like church, you know. They pretty much clap for everything. So if you bring your lunch to the meeting, like, give Brian a round of applause, like, great job. You know, it's very encouraging environment. But the third thing I realized, and probably the most important thing, is that, you know, I just delivered and survived my first presentation. And my thought process was, hey, if I can survive and thrive my first presentation, I could give two. And so, Ashley, that's what I did. So I gave my second presentation a few weeks later, and then 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 8. And Toastmasters, they try to get you to do your first 10 speeches, which is a goal they call Competent Communicator. And then I started speaking outside of the club, and I started hosting my own events in 2009. And transitioned into corporate America, I started to I was promoted as a training specialist and started leading new hire orientation and technology training. I went back to school to study instructional design and all those things that brought us to the point here with Black Speakers Network. And so the way I describe that journey, it's truly an intersection, Ashley, of 3 different areas and passions for me. It's an intersection of having a unique experience and a great opportunity to go to HBCU, like Morgan State University.
Absolutely.
You know, I saw firsthand the power of the power and the opportunity that we have to use our voices to be able to literally shape the world around us. And yet, when I look around the speaking industry, I really just didn't see a lot of diversity represented. And so, you know, I really wanted to do something that, number one, impacted the number of speakers, particularly Black speakers, that we saw in the speaking industry. I wanted to do something that create real success and opportunity for people to be able to, you know, get started as a speaker and really turn it into a viable business. And I wanted to do something that would allow me to continue to do what I enjoy, which is, you know, not just speaking, but also help speakers connect with the audience that they're called to serve. And that's how Black Speakers Network was started.
Well, I just want to say,
long answer, but a little bit of a superhero origin story.
Yes. I just want to commend you for just reaching back and pulling forward and creating that space for speakers, right? Because a lot of people are afraid of public speaking. So what would you say to that person that's listening that might be afraid to just jump and do it? You know, they might feel the same way you did when you first started. What would be some advice you would give them?
Yeah, so I think it was Ralph C. Smedley that said that the unprepared speaker has the right to be afraid. And so generally speaking, most of us don't really fear public speaking because we have a fear of speaking. Now, some of us do, because my personal experience, as we're coaching and working with speakers, sometimes we've been traumatized a little bit by a high school speech class where you're getting like a grade or even in college. And sometimes those things just have leave scars that are there. But for the most part, if you're a professional of any kind, certainly if you're an entrepreneur, public speaking in some capacity is going to find its way into your area of responsibility. And so as much as you want to run from it, hide from it, you know, the best thing to do is just to start preparing for it. And that's why I think Toastmasters is a great entry point for people that are really afraid, because you get an opportunity to start speaking in an environment that's not threatening. But generally speaking, you have, if you're not prepared, you have the right to be afraid, because oftentimes you're not really, most people that are afraid of speaking aren't afraid of being in front of people. They're afraid of being judged. And they're afraid of them saying something that is either lands not the way that they intended to, or just flat out forgetting what it is that they were trying to say, or, you know, they just simply don't like being in front of that many people. But it's something there. And so just like when you start driving a car, Ashley, you remember when you first started driving and that experience when you were just learning, like behind the wheel?
Yes. Afraid, nervous. Yes.
Nervous, yeah. And it's not fun for you. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for the person that's teaching you. Definitely not fun for the person behind you trying to get around you when we're going like 20 and everybody else is trying to do like 80. So, like,
Right.
not fun for anybody when you first start. But now when you're driving, you know, most of us can drive with one knee, eating like a hamburger on the phone with the other hand. Like, it's not even a big
Yes.
deal. And the reason you could do that because you probably turned the key in that ignition like 10,000 times. And the same thing happens with speaking. You know, you develop a comfort level. And so I would say that that's the same thing. If you're afraid of speaking, you just have to do it more. But I don't think you should do it in an environment where you feel like your job is on the line. Don't wait until you have to give a high-stakes presentation. Start in an environment where, you know, you can get love and support and feedback, by the way, to get better.
And that's always important, that comfort level and that good feedback. So, Brian, you specialize in empowering rising professional speakers and, you know, players with clarity, streamlined systems, and cultivating those relationships. Could you kind of expand a little bit more about that for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that business really boils down to relationships. And ultimately, you are, even if you are putting out a product or a service and you're really not seeing yourself as directly interfacing with another person, there's still somewhere along the supply chain, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with, even if you're not interacting with your end customer, you're interacting with vendors, you're interacting with suppliers, agents, champions, people that are going to advocate for your brand. So you got to get comfortable with relationships. And so for me, with Black Speakers Network, as our name applies, you know, we are a collective of 20,000 plus current speakers, aspiring speakers, authors, coaches, thought leaders. And truly, for my part, I knew as we were creating this organization, I'm like, okay, you know, I want to make sure that we're creating an environment where we could truly help speakers either get started in their speaking career or, if you're already a speaker, accelerate what you're already doing. And for us, that is a multifaceted approach because when you come into the speaking industry, there's a lot to learn. There is, and everybody's at a different place. And I'm not an expert in all of these different things. You know, we created this model actually called the 5 M's, which is helping speakers get clarity on your mission, your message, marketing, monetization, and management of your speaking business. And we can do a deep dive into that, but there are literally hundreds of topics under each of those categories. And so I'm not the expert in all of that. So the very first thing that we want to do is identify thought leaders and people that we trust to be able to share their knowledge and expertise around that. And so really, that's all we're doing. You know, we are trying to bring together the best of the best so that, you know, if you're a speaker and you're trying to figure out how to put it all together, you know, how to clarify, how to create your first signature message, how to create a one sheet, where do you go to get a speaker's website, what's a sizzle reel, you know, how do you put together your speaker video, how do you target, you know, your target, you know, if you're a college speaker, you know, how does that work? Let's bring together the people that have proven success that have done it and be able to, you know, share those best practices. And so, you know, the power of relationships is huge, and one of the best examples of that is we have a new book called Speak Up, the ultimate guide to dominate in the speaking industry. Yeah, Speak Up.
Yes, best-selling author.
Best-selling author. And you know what? You know why it's a best-selling is because of collaboration. It's because we had 32 co-authors as a part of that project, including Les Brown and Dr. George Frazier. And you had it's an answer to the question of how do I get started as a speaker? You know, and so something like that where, I mean, you're collaborating. I mean, you remember the group projects in college where, you know, they were always a pain. You always had the one guy that didn't show up, the one person that didn't want to talk, you know, the other person that thought they knew everything. Like, you know, so trying to get 32 people to collaborate could be problematic, you know, in theory, but for us, it was a smooth process. And so I think, you know, and we could talk more about that later, but I think there's some definite best practices in terms of collaborating with people in a way that feels healthy and authentic, and also makes people feel like, you're doing something with them and not doing something to them. So there's a lot we can say about that. But generally speaking, I feel like your ability to get things done is amplified by your ability and your desire to collaboratively work with others. And there's a quote that says, you'll be amazed what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit.
Absolutely. I love it. Because collaboration is so important to our next level, right? And you all speak up. Super congratulations on your book. For everybody in the book, y'all have some amazing people in there, like you just stated. And, it's a prime example of the power of collaboration. Prime example of it. So super congratulations again.
Hey, I appreciate that. It's a labor of love. And, this is something that, and the other thing that's impressive about the book, it was my first time. I had some ebooks, but it was my first published book. So it was a big accomplishment for me, but it was also many of our authors. It was their first time being a published author as well. But the cool thing about it is that we got that project done in 12 weeks, and it was because it was a collaboration. So certainly, I know we have a lot of folks out there. I was just in Connecticut a few days ago. We're actually in the process of a nationwide book tour. So if anybody's listening to this live, then you may have already been a part of the one of our tour stops in Norfolk, Virginia. We've done Baltimore, Washington. I was just in Connecticut a few days ago. I'm going to be in Detroit this Friday, May 10th. Then we head to Atlanta for the BYOB conference on Memorial Day weekend, and then we'll be out in LA on June 1st. So if you're in any of those areas, we'd love to connect with you for sure. You can go to speakupthebook.com to sign up for any of those events. They're free. But I was just talking at one of our events in Connecticut, and we were saying, hey, as an author, a lot of people have an ambition to write a book, but it's one of the things that holds them back is that they think they have to do it all themselves, and they don't. There are a lot of ways to get to the same result. So there's nothing wrong with partnering with. It doesn't have to be 32. We just did that because that was who was part of our network. But you could partner with 2 or 3 people and get it done.
Yes. I definitely agree. So, Brian, what are some questions that speakers should ask themselves before giving a speech?
Yeah, well, before giving a speech, I can answer that kind of in a roundabout way because I think there's a great book called QBQ. I forget the author, to look it up in a second, but he talks about like the question behind the question. And for us, I think it's getting started in the speaking business could be interesting because a lot of people, the number one thing they see is like the dollar signs, right? And they're like, hey, I want to be a professional speaker because, I want to get $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for a speaking engagement. And I absolutely agree with that. I think it's great. You should get paid for what you are worth.
Yeah.
However, before you deliver a speech, and I mentioned to you earlier that model, the 5 M's, that when you talk about delivering a speech, that kind of falls under the second M, which is message. But there's a first M, which is mission. And I believe that before you get on any stage, at least as a professional speaker, you need to get clarity on that first M, which is your mission. And so embedded in that are 3 smaller questions, which is, hey, what am I passionate about? What is that? And when I say passion, it's not just like, what do I like? Like, one of the things I like is Marvel. Like, I just saw Avengers Endgame. It was great. No spoilers. It was awesome. Go see it. But I like Marvel. I'm not passionate about Marvel enough to be a speaker on it because, it has to be something that that's going to sustain you through like the next 5 years. But you got to be passionate. You have to be something that you're knowledgeable about. So leaning on your background and your experience. And then you have to have something that the market actually needs. In other words, you have to be actually solving a problem. And so if you can figure out those 3 things, the intersection of those 3 areas, passion, knowledge, and market demand, is what we call your speaker's sweet spot. And that's really the space that you should be operating in. So before you deliver a speech, I really think you just need to take some time, Ashley, and get clarity on those three things, because if you don't, the risk is, so let's say, and you can kind of play around with that, if you take one away, if you are really passionate about something and you're knowledgeable about it, but there's no market demand, then that's a hobby, right?
Right.
And so you're not going to make any money. So those are the things that we really help speakers get clarity on before we get into the whole, let me jump on stage and begin speaking.
I love it. So when your speakers learn the 5 M's and they go through the process, a lot, like you stated earlier, a lot of our speakers want to monetize their speaking opportunities. So can you speak a little bit more on how speakers can create multiple streams of income in their speaking business?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting is that I actually don't I really don't like the word. So we use the word speaker kind of loosely because, at the end of the day, that's where people kind of like self-identify in the space. But if I was to give a more precise definition to it, I would really more so say that not so much in the speaking business as we are in the information marketing business, which is, hey, we're taking content, and you're doing the same thing right now, Ashley. You're taking content, and the name of the game is repackage, repurpose, repeat. You're solving a problem. You're delivering content for people that you're creating yourself or redistributing content, via one of the platforms. And so as we talk about kind of this entire platform that we're on now, like we're talking about creating your seat at the table, I love the notion of creating your seat because it doesn't say grab a seat at the table. It's like creating your seat. You're bringing the chair into the room that didn't exist before, which is what you want. Like that's how you create opportunity in the marketplace. But if you want to take it one step further, I think it's more along the lines of what you're doing, actually, because, you are the co-founder of this platform and a station owner. So you created the table and the room that the table is in and the building and the parking lot and the whole 9 yards. And that's really the space that you want to be in my opinion. So kudos to you for doing that. And I think, from a speaking perspective, it's the same thing. Like we're not talking about creating a great speech. We're talking about being great business owners. We're talking about being great entrepreneurs. And so we actually have 20-plus ways that we teach how to monetize your speaking business. And, I can run through them really quickly, but basically pick one or two that are going to work really, really well for you because you can't be on stage speaking all the time. Not only that, you don't want that to be your only source of revenue because if it is, what happens if you're sick? What happens if you can't travel? Or what happens if you get tired of traveling? Or, any number of things. So absolutely want to set yourself up to be able to command progressively higher speaking fees, but you can sell from the stage, you can create books, digital downloads, online courses. BSN is structured as a membership site. We have members who pay $15 a month to get access to all the stuff that we're talking about. You could become an affiliate. You can host your own event. You could go out and get sponsors. You can go into coaching and or consulting. You can host your own seminars and workshops, VIP days. You can do webinars. There's licensing of software and different things that you can get into. You can create your own audio products. You can start your own affiliate program. You can do DVDs. You have physical products like shirts and T-shirts. Easier than ever to do that today with platforms like Teespring and things of that nature. You can, if you're into YouTube or other sources like this, you can get online ad revenue. You can become a brand ambassador. There are literally hundreds of ways. I just rattled off 20. But, when you start thinking about monetizing, that's where we're getting people to think about.
Love it. So, Brian, would you please share with the listeners how they can get involved with Black Speakers Network because you have an awesome platform that many people need. So would you please tell them how they can join and support and be a part of it?
Yeah, we are very easy to find, I think. But if you are on Instagram or Twitter or Instagram, we're at Black Speakers Network. So I would think that the big thing is, so there's kind of like 3 levels. So if you just want to, if you're kind of like, okay, not really sure if I'm a speaker yet, but this sounds interesting. Just kind of want to hang out, see what's going on. I would say follow us online, Black Speakers Network on Instagram, facebook.com/Black Speakers Network. You'll see, we share tips, tools, resources. We celebrate the success of the members. We share, just you'll get a lot of value just by following us on social. If you're ready to take it to the next level, then I encourage you to join Black Speakers Network. You can go to blackspeakersnetwork.com, click on the join button. We have 2 levels of membership, but I recommend BSN Silver, which is, like we said, $15 per month, $180 per year. And that gives you access to, we send out speaker opportunity alerts, at least 15 every single week that you can apply to. And if you're actively looking for speaking engagements, that's a great way to expand your search. We add our members to our membership directory and to our website. And so if meeting planners are looking for speakers or other speakers that are hosting events are looking for speakers, we share leads through that process. We have over 25 speaker development webinars that you get instant access to, that you can listen to and watch at any time, plus ongoing monthly training sessions that you can plug into, plus a host of other benefits. So, kind of like the Netflix of the speaking industry from that perspective, very affordable for most people. But, the thing that I know is that nothing changes unless something changes. And so if you've been on the fence and you're like, man, I really want to speak, or, you have this message, the reason why our book is called Speak Up, because our tagline is Speak Up, Your Audience Awaits. And I truly believe that everyone, even if you're not a speaker per se, everyone has an audience that they're called to serve. But if you've been in that audience and you've experienced that thing like I did, where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, I need to be where that other person is, then I invite you to come check us out at Black Speakers Network, and we'll be happy to help.
Amazing. So please go check them out and join. So, Brian, I know a lot of people ask this question about the speaker coach. So can you elaborate on that, of why speakers hire a speaker coach, even if you're already a speaker?
Yeah, well, I won't necessarily advocate for coaching per se.
Okay.
But what I will say is that every professional, anybody that's going to master that craft, needs to continuously invest in their own professional development. And so there might be periods, depending on where you are in your speaking business and what your specific goals are, where coaching makes a lot of sense. And there's other portions where, if you're a person that's, you've been coached and you still haven't executed on the stuff that you and your coach talked about, like from before, then no, you don't need a coach. You need maybe an accountability partner, but you don't need coaching. Because I see a lot of people spend a lot of money, and that's the first thing they jump to is like coaching. And coaching could be, it's in the upper echelon of the things that you're going to invest in terms of anytime you're getting somebody's time, either one-on-one or in a group format, that's going to be an expensive investment. And so not to say that you shouldn't do that, but I think you need to exhaust some of the other resources. Like I'm not going to jump into a coaching program if I haven't read, a book like Speak Up or, Dale Carnegie or any number of different things where it's like, okay, let me at least get the fundamentals first. So, like, I should only be going to a coach where I hit a brick wall and I'm like, I can't figure out how to get over this wall myself. But I think a lot of people go to coaches as like a magic bullet, and then they pay $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever, and it's like, and they look at the coach like, okay, why aren't I moving? And no coach. I mean, you look at, I think we need to kind of define the word coach, because it's like a coach isn't going to make you successful. You're going to make yourself successful. The coach is there to help amplify what you're already doing. But if you aren't doing anything, then a coach isn't going to help you. So I just wanted to kind of leave with that, because I think the first thing people kind of look for is a coach, and I'm not sure that that's the best entry point And I get there are different learning styles, and some people are like, I just need somebody to tell me exactly what to do. And that's fine. But I do believe that, in the YouTube generation and kind of what we're doing at BSN, some of our webinars, $15 per month, there's enough information to get 99% of everybody listening to this to a really, really, really healthy place in their speaking business before they invest in $1 of coaching. But then when coaching should be to get you nuanced in your industry and figure out, okay, I know my message, got my materials down, I know exactly kind of what I'm doing. Now, how do I take things to the next level?
I love that. And thank you for breaking down the coaching part of it, because you're right. If you're not already doing anything, it's not going to help. You're going to be wasting your money, right? So I think a lot of people needed to hear that. So thank you for sharing that as well. And definitely, again, go join BSN so you all can get these fundamentals and get those resources to help you get to the next level. So what are some strategies, Brian, that you would give to new speakers who are just getting started? Of course, they need to join BSN, of course, but what are some other things you would say to new speakers who are just starting?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice is to there's a couple things I can say, but I think the biggest thing is if you want to be a speaker, I mean, this is going to sound really, hopefully not patronizing, but like if you say that you want to be a speaker and that you are a speaker, you need to speak. Like, you can't, like for real, like we can't, that's like if you, if somebody's like, you pick any industry, like if I'm a baker, somebody's going to be like, oh, can I get a pie? You're like, well, I'm out of sugar. Or, oh, my oven, I didn't pay my gas bill. Or, oh, I'm out of pants. Like, what? Like, you're a baker. Like, like, there's some basic stuff that you should be doing, like, not every now and then. Like, if I look in your kitchen and I'm not seeing basic stuff, I'm going to be like, are you really a baker? Or are you just, like, watching, like, Top Chef every, like, Thursday? Like, what's really happening? And so it's the same thing with speaking. Like, I feel like a lot of new speakers come into the industry, and they're like, they're already kind of have this ego of, oh, I'm not going to go speak unless it's, paid, or, oh, I'm not going to, talk on this person's podcast because they only got like 1,000 viewers, or, oh, I'm not going to like whatever. Like, bro, I'm like, if you haven't, I'm not going to say a dollar number because it's not always about that, but if you haven't got to where you want to be as a speaker, I don't believe that you should be getting too picky about the types of platforms you're speaking on, because you need to get, like in the gym, like you need to get your reps in. So that's like the biggest thing. Like if you're a speaker, like I should have some evidence. If we had to convict you in a court of law that you were a speaker, like, show me your calendar so that we can discern whether or not you're a speaker. Like you need to be out somewhere speaking. And I get you can't always control who reaches out to you to speak. But I just named all those things, and in 2019, there's no excuses. There's absolutely no excuses. Ashley, you didn't ask anybody's permission to create the Creating Your Seat at the Table show, did you?
No, I did. I just did it. Right.
Yeah, you just did it. You created your own platform. So anybody can go live. Anybody can jump on the podcast. I reached out to you, or you reached out to, like, there are plenty of podcast hosts that need quality speakers. There are plenty of, you go to meetup.com. There are plenty of local organizations in your backyard that need a speaker. Heck, Toastmasters, I highly recommend doing that. And that I've gotten paid speaking engagements just by being a Toastmasters member. So, like, there's just no excuses. I think, if you're saying you're going to be a speaker, you got to get over the thing of, oh, yeah, I'm just waiting for the speaking opportunity. Like, speaking opportunities are not going to attack you. You got to go after it, and you got to stop being overly sophisticated about how that looks.
Absolutely. And like you said, the first key is building those relationships as well. That's one of the main keys of, getting those speaking opportunities, building those relationships. So great nuggets and knowledge that you have shared. So what can we expect from Brian Olds the rest of 2019? Because I know you've already exceeded quarter one. We're in quarter two now. So what can we expect from you the rest of 2019?
Well, it's been an exciting year. This was my year that I transitioned to full-time entrepreneurship, so that's been exciting. I think, for the rest of 2019, I don't believe in creating a ton of, I only like to have a few key focus areas at a time. So last year, we were focused on getting the book launched. We were focused on our platform partner program and solidifying the Silver Member program. For this year, we'll be continuing the book tour throughout the rest of the year. Already named all of our tour stops, so I won't repeat that. The thing that I will kind of add in there is the kind of on the tail end of our tour is an event that every speaker needs to try their best to get to, which is SpeakerCon, the first of its kind event taking place November 1st through 2nd, where we're not hosting that event, but we're partnering. Cheryl Wood is the visionary behind SpeakerCon, and it is going to be a phenomenal event. And so if you're a speaker, I recommend just Googling SpeakerCon or going to the website or Instagram or shoot us a note if you can't find it, and we'll get you the information. But, getting yourself, you want to get yourself around other speakers. And for us, we want to make sure that we do our best to partner with other entrepreneurs that provide services for speakers to do that. So right now we're just focused on that, continuing to promote the book, going to multiple cities, and, continuing to host live events. We also are working on our very first signature digital course, which will be available in June.
Nice.
So that'll be a great entry point. Yeah, we're super excited about the course. That's going to be structured around the 5 M's as well, so people will be able to kind of do a little bit deeper dive, and the book, Speak Up book, will complement that. And then, the final thing is really making sure that as we continue to grow, that we're bringing other partners, really, really great partners along the way. So that's really it for 2019. I believe in, I'm not trying to take over the world. I'm really, we have about 400 BSN Silver members right now, so I really want to make sure that they're having a great experience. And, for the folks that we're bringing in, ensuring that they're, not just in the network, but, really growing and continuing to get the most out of it. So that's really my focus right now.
Well, super congratulations on all of your great success. I'm sure you're going to have some more amazing things to come out this year as well. And I can't wait to see all the things that God is going to do in your journey. So would you please share with the listeners one more time how they can follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and how they can contact you if needed your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, Brian Olds, and you can follow me too. I'm on I'm not personally really active on Instagram, but I am through BSN, so it's at Black Speakers Network, Instagram, and then Facebook as well. And I tell you what, if any of your members are listening and they are really, really interested in becoming a BSN Silver member, they could drop me an email at info, that's INFO, at blackspeakersnetwork.com, blackspeakersnetwork.com. And I will give your listeners a special discount on membership. But got to say, hey, I just drop me a note and say, hey, heard you talk on the Creating Your Seat at the Table show, and I will extend a special discount just for your listeners. But generally speaking, I'm excited for you, Ashley. I'm excited for the folks that are listening to this. Hopefully, I know for a fact that we have just so many people that are waiting to for that moment, right? And,
yes.
and I think that at a certain point you have to stop waiting and just take deliberate action to move toward the things that you say you want and put those things in alignment. And every day that you wake up and put your feet on the ground and you're like outside of that alignment, then it builds up inside of you, and it's not going anywhere. Like you might as well move forward in the direction that you are called toward, because every day that you delay, there are more and more people that truly needed what you have, and that will continue to hurt and suffer because you're not releasing your gifts into the world. And so we want to help accelerate that, and if I can help at all, I'll be happy to do so.
Amazing. So you just got to get started, listeners. Please reach out to Brian and say you were listening to Creating Your Seat at the Table. Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing this gift with my listeners. You are amazing, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule to come on my show today. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. No, thank you. This was great. And you too, Ashley. Like, if there's anything I can continue to support or help with, just let me know.
I will. Thank you so much, and I look forward to bringing you back before the end of 2019.
Yeah. Let's get it.
Awesome. So I would like to give a special thanks to Tammy Collins Marquis and John Schamberger. I would also like to give a special thanks to author Kimberly McLemore, and a special thanks to my intern from Tennessee State, Sarah, who's interning with me this summer as well. And I would like to announce the HBCU Anthology, who I'm partnering with Dr. Sharon, and I'm leading the North Carolina A&T State University edition. So if you are looking to be a contributing author in any of the HBCU, for the HBCU Anthology project, and you want to be a lead author or a contributing author to this movement, or a sponsor or a partner, please reach out to me or Dr. Sharon Porter. So thank you all, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.